Welcome to the Old Souls and Seekers podcast, a podcast that transcends the typical personal development journey. You're not new to this. You've read the books, attended the seminars, and perhaps even tried various coaching programs, yet something still feels amiss. Elon and Guy have over 2 decades of relentless searching and $1 million invested in their personal growth quest. Here's the revelation. You're not missing anything. You're not even behind. You might have just been searching in the wrong places. In each episode, we'll uncover the most effective, straightforward practices that have profoundly impacted our lives and the tens of thousands of our clients from all over the world. This is about real, sustainable results for those dedicated to their personal and spiritual growth. So get ready to explore and enjoy the show.
What's up, y'all? How's everyone doing?
You wanna spread the energy.
Spread the energy, yeah.
Oh, the sound that you made you want to seem like you want to just like zonk out and poop.
No. Sorry, yeah, not the impression I wanted to give.
Yeah,
share the love more than anything.
Yeah. Well, coming off of another spectacular live weekend event, how was if you guys were there and you want to share, please feel free to share. Would love to hear your guys' feedback. How was it for you?
It's always great. You know, I'm like surprised but not surprised every time. I used to have anxiety about these weekends. Oh, I hope it turns out and this or that. And now, yeah, it's just like I'm always. I think what always does surprise me is the potency and power of awareness itself. Like sometimes I feel like it's like we're not even doing really that much. We're pointing out some what feels like pretty basic stuff, but basic works, simple works. And then I'm always just like, it just looks so fun. I love watching adults get this. I feel like it's like Christmas morning on the second day. And we start doing the practices and I see people's eyes get really big. And it's this like recognition of self-realization of truth to some degree. And this like confidence can land in and like it gives them I feel like what this program does, what we do in general is we point at the path. And it's like, there's the path. There's the path. There's the path. Like you can walk that path, like as much as you want to, committed walk that path, but there's the path. And like, I just remember I never knew where the hell the path was.
Yeah.
And when I started doing work like this, the path became really clear. And I was really clear when I was on the path, when I was off the path, when I was walking down the path. And so like, it's just so great because there's not a lack of intelligence or wisdom that comes our way from people who do these programs. Many of you guys that come do this work, you're wildly adept, you're super aware. And then suddenly, like, you get this one little piece, and suddenly everything you've ever taken time to learn is just so much more rich, in my opinion. It makes everything more valuable. So it's always fun for me.
Yeah.
I love watching people go through it.
I think the thing that I walk away from every time we do these now is the reminder of why we do what we do. Like listening to people share how they've forgiven themselves for the first time in 2 decades, and like not conceptually or from a mind place forgiving themselves, but you can actually feel like they've just released this, this huge boulder that they've just been carrying with themselves like all the time. And they just, in a meditation, it's just like gone. And they have this look on their eye, like, what just happened to me? Because they feel so different. Or someone forgiving a parent who is either here or deceased, or being able to be seen for the first time ever, as scared as they might be, feeling safe enough to step out and actually be seen and receive support. Every time we do it, I'm just reminded of the magic that can be delivered in 2 days. It doesn't, like some of the things that people share, they've been working on for decades, and then they come to a 2-day event and they just have this massive, massive awakening. Yeah. I'm always left with this thing of like, wow, this shit works. It's amazing.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Every time.
Always fun. I woke up for every weekend very jazzed up, and partly it's also like an initiation for people in our program. It's an initiation for people who like don't really know this work and don't really know us yet, and come there. And I love the mix now. I love how many more people are there to support. I love like we had just so many new faces on this one that I have not seen before. It's like to me it just feels like a really intimate way to get to know our community.
Yeah.
And I'm also grateful that we moved it to once a quarter.
Yeah,
because I always realize at the end of it how much output there is there, and I was even like, just Elon and I have been doing those programs now for over 4 years, probably 4.5 years.
Yeah,
that intuitive mind, and it's different iterations, but more or less it's kind of been the same program as we dial.
It keeps evolving as we keep evolving, but yes,
we keep dialing in aspects of it that we're always looking at what's been the most impactful and this, that, the other. But it's kind of been what that field has been holding itself for a while, and we were doing them sometimes every 6 weeks for a number of years, and there was just a lot of output, and it just feels really good now to kind of like let that energy in the community build and build and build and build, and then like be together and like let it build and build and build, and then be together. And for clients that have been with us for a few months to even a few years, like as they keep coming. And I love their recountenance of the program. Like we were just having a conversation with Ritu, and I'm like, unbelievable. Like, Ritu, you're here. I don't know how long you've been coming to this work, like maybe 2 years now, maybe more. I mean, just like, incredible to hear these stories of like what's happening. And I want to point out something for all of you guys that when Ritu was sharing today, and Ritu, I'm not going to blow up your spot and share what you shared, but what I heard today from coachees, like from people who are been working with us for a while, some who are even coaching in this community, and you guys know, it's something that it took me like a number of years to recognize and had to be pointed out to me because I really didn't see it for a long time, is like this ability to turn in and be with our experience. So what I mean by that is for about the 3.5 years of doing work, like our automated response seems to be when something gets triggered or something becomes difficult, the reactivity, the hijacking that happens, and the conditioning is to like look out, look outside of ourselves, look at our circumstances, right? And it's this kind of like, when we really track it, this automatic avoidance pattern, like, oh, I don't like this, poof, right? Like it's almost like you're sprinting away from the experience. And as you develop into this work and start having these realizations, what begins to happen as safety and well-being and connection and security increase in the system, slowly but surely you build this capacity to like turn and look within. And I say this, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. It's like what I think all of us care about is our internal experience. The money is fine, vacations, experiences, loved ones, like all that is phenomenal. But what we really care about is how does that experience make me feel in here? Yeah. So what we really care about is what does it feel like in here? But most of us have been trained to not be in here, is to be out there. And so it doesn't matter how much we acquire out here, this resonant feeling, we still can't be within here in any sort of intimate way or meet it with any sort of compassion. And from where I sit today, it's like, if you want to decrease or end your suffering, I don't know that we can end our suffering, but at least minimize it tremendously. And maybe enlightenment is the end to that suffering. But if you're playing the game of minimizing or ending your own suffering, minimizing and ending the suffering on the planet, then it's all about your internal experience. And what minimizes and ends that is your ability that when something emerges within you, an experience, that what meets it is this witness that's fundamentally just compassion. When compassion meets every aspect of yourself, you don't suffer.
Yep.
Like a judgment can be there, but it's met with compassion. Then there's just judgment. It's just a neutral judgment. You don't suffer. When an emotional, quote, pain arises in the body and it's met with compassion, then the emotion can just be there. There's no suffering. You're just in awe of the experience. And so like this work is about every layer that arises that that we feel is so uncomfortable, and I'm speaking for me and Elon, and hopefully speaking to you as well, is that we've been like neglectful and judgmental and all these other aspects of ourselves that have, tried to deal with this discomfort that lies within. And it's like, that's where the suffering is. It has nothing to do with your external stuff. Like, I'm always amazed when I'm upset about something, always amazed, like super upset about something. And I have this tightness in my body, and then I'll sit with somebody and get support, and it'll metabolize out of my system that I'm not, like, the same circumstances are there that were there an hour ago, but I have no upset, no concerns, no worries. I'm just like, okay, well, what's happening? So I've learned that we're falsely correlating the circumstance as the cause for the upset, instead of that there is a circumstance and our system is navigating that upset by having some kind of response, but that the real fear, the real upset is what's happening inside. And so it's like, once you build that capacity to be with what's happening inside, there's not a lot of suffering that happens anymore, regardless of what situation you're in.
I think it also parlays into, and we were talking a lot about this at the event, you can't give to others what you haven't already given to yourself. And so when you find compassion for what Guy's pointing to, the parts inside of yourself, like we had this amazing woman this weekend who had been beating herself up for 2 decades for all sorts of stuff, and then just let that go. So she found compassion for the part that beats herself up, right? What that gives you access to that no one really points to or talks about is you now can see that in other. And when you can see in other their part that beats themselves up, or their part that gets angry, or their part that gets sad, or their parts that whatever, because you've compassionately loved that part inside of you, you now have compassion and unconditional love for that person having their experience. And the reason that people go to war, and the reason that there's so much hate and divisiveness and polarization in this country is because, or in the world, is because people keep making the other person wrong for having their, at that moment, perfect human experience. Because it's not the experience that you think is right. Right? And there's a judgment about that. But when you have compassion for someone doing what they're doing because a hurt little boy or hurt little girl part feels unsafe, and you can go through the, like the action or whatever it is to actually find that hurt little one inside, and you can give that one compassion, this is how we change the world. I said this at the live event, this delusion that people have that like a politician's going to come in and fix shit, or this party or that party, or, this corporation's going to do X, or this guys, none of that is going to change shit. And as I'm saying it, I'm realizing it's like, we talk about this all the time. It's not about the action. It's about the energy behind the action. So think about the energy behind every action that happens in politics, that happens in corporations, that happens with power. Like, it doesn't matter. Another puppet can come in, but the energy behind that action is still the same energy. So it's going to just keep creating more in a slightly different tint. But if we want to actually create a new world, and this is what I said at the live event, it starts with you. It starts with how loving are you to yourself and all aspects of yourself. What we see more than anything else in personal development is people do personal development to change, fix, or overcome aspects of themselves. And they try to do this for a very long time, unsuccessfully, I might add. Only to get to this place eventually, hopefully, where you realize that getting rid of something or overcoming something or trying to fix or whatever that thing isn't working. And so the only option is left is to accept it, to integrate it back into the whole. And every human that does that at whatever level they're doing it becomes a better parent, becomes a better spouse, becomes a better human, becomes more loving, becomes more compassionate. And as you share that love and compassion, and again, we're not always perfect. Do I still get mad? Yeah, I still get mad. Do I get mad? Way, way, way less than what I did 10, 15, 20 years ago than when I started this work. Oh my God. Like I can't even recognize myself today. And so every time that I choose love, I choose compassion for myself and others, that's how we change the world. Because now that person gets seen, that person gets met, that person gets the thing that was missing for them. And then guess what? That shifts something inside of them and they pass that on and so forth. And so I've literally seen these visions where there's like a tapestry, almost like a spider web that is on this planet from all the souls. I don't want to get too deep into it. I've also seen these other layers, but anyway, like there's this tapestry, and what we're doing is there's these nodes that are all over the planet, and we're actually charging this net. And as this net gets charged, it doesn't mean that everyone needs to be playing this game. It doesn't mean that everyone needs to be unconditionally loving and compassionate and all that stuff. We just need a certain amount of nodes all around the world to keep charging and charging and charging. And when the energy level of that becomes great enough, it will literally filter through the entire web. It's almost like mycelium networks. If you've ever seen pictures of mycelium networks that go on for miles under the earth and can bring nutrients from this tree to one that's dying like miles away, right? And it has the intelligence to do all of that. Guys, we're the same thing. If a mushroom root system underground has this capability, you're telling me that like this does not? Come on. So I feel like once we get to that place, the things that we're trying to fix by changing the government or changing this or changing that or whatever it is, like it's a losing battle. But if you work on self and you be the best human that you can be in this lifetime, you're literally changing the world. Mm-hmm. And it's so much simpler than we've made it out to be. Because when we jump into this new energetic frequency as a whole, like as the whole human race, the things that we're now trying to fight or combat will literally cease to exist. Like in that new paradigm, all this shit doesn't exist. So it's not about tinkering and messing about. It's just how quickly can we make that shift to get to that next level where all of it just goes bye-bye. And to me, these weekends are like, it feels like that. It feels like this energizing of souls, a remembering of souls, a connection of souls, right? Like, you know, people are saying a node in France, a node down under, like all this stuff. Yeah. And then we're all interconnected, right? So like, we're all helping each other remember. We're all helping each other get stronger and more grounded. And through that, to me, that's everything. That's why when I watch, whether it's newbies who are there for the first time or, you know, veterans who are our coaches and have been for a long time, and every single one of us feels this energy together, it takes my breath away.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I had an interesting experience, having an interesting experience, I suppose. The day before, and I think, again, it just speaks to all the same stuff, how it all works at every level of our experience. The day before the event, I was making my kids some lunch, and I was boiling some water. And I don't know why, but like my youngest one is just past 20 months, right? And he's very active. We call him the raccoon because he gets into everything. So, you know, I was boiling this water, and I knew that I had to bring it from the stovetop to the sink. And in my mind, he was like he has this like Montessori thing that he stands in so he can be at the height of the countertop. Mm-hmm. So we like our kids to kind of be interactive and, like, you know, help out and do things so they feel like they're part of the household. And he looked like he was about to exit. So in my mind, I primed myself with this worry that I was going to move the water and that he could, if heaven forbid it fell, it'll fall on him. So I had this like, again, this happens like in a split second in time, right? So as I did that, because I did that, like my presence was a little bit on that. And as I slid the water off, we have like this grate that's over our oven, but it can like slide off. And so the metal grate slid off. And again, it wasn't like going to harm him or me or anything like that. But because I had primed myself that I was worried about my kid, what my hand did was it grabbed the metal that was hundreds degrees hot with with these two fingers. And so I like grabbed it and then like, moved it off. But by the time I had taken my finger off, I had like, I don't know, second or third degree burns already. It was like white. You could literally see the indents in my finger, like someone took an iron onto it, like that kind of thing. And my first response was really different than anything I had ever experienced before, because it was the same thing. What met it was compassion. It was so weird, because what would normally happen is like, God damn it. The anger of doing something dumb, right? I knew that I didn't do it. It was like this automatic response. Like I didn't go here. It was just like the hand just grabbed it for the safety of my son. And so like, it was weird, right? I didn't respond angrily. This thing happened. And I've learned like a quick trick. If you burn yourself, like don't put your hand under cold water. It like changes the temperature too quickly and can like make it worse. But like, of course, some element of pain ensues and there's like a bit of discomfort here. But like, as the time is wearing on, it's not progressing. Like I've been burned before. It usually like it kind of starts, you guys know, and then it like kind of gets worse and worse. But like, it was really interesting. I was like kind of neutral about this experience. And so like I have these burns on my finger, but I shit you not, like the event starts the next day. I have no pain, like zero pain. It doesn't even make sense. Like I expected boils. Like I'm like, oh, I've had burns before. Like the water gets underneath, it gets like boil. I was like, I'm going to need to pop this later. It's going to be gross and painful and all this kind of stuff. None of that happened. Sunday, no pain. Today, it's almost healed already.
Wow.
I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense for the level of burn that I got. So again, I don't know what science would say about what I'm talking about here, but I feel like this emotional trauma is exactly like physical trauma. It's like the mind can make everything so much worse by the experience that it's having with it and how it interacts with it. And this is like blowing my mind that this like physical thing is going on. So that's cool. And then today we were on a coach's training and Nikki had me recreate this. So I want to recreate it here with you guys again, because I had never said that before. Somebody who's here right now, and again, just for privacy reasons, I won't say something, won't use her name, said that she was feeling like a depressing energy over the weekend. She had been depressed recently. And during the weekend had recounted that we gave the reminder of like, okay, so if you're feeling depressed, like be with the depression, like allow the depression. And I know that she knows that already. And I know that already, but I have needed that reminder more than any other reminder through my process.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times that I've been upset with my teacher or in a part or in a process, and he's like, would it be okay to permission that? And then I sit there and go, oh yeah, I could just permission that.
Yeah.
Like, that's happened to me like 1,000 times. So I'm not discounting that I've needed that reminder and will continue to need that reminder in my life over and over again. Because when we're hijacked, It's like the training goes out the window, or we're merged in our experience. It literally takes somebody else to point out, would it be okay? Yes, it's okay. And so she's saying how she did that and like goes to bed on Sunday night, wakes up the next morning, and like the fog had lifted. Amazing. How does that even make any sense? It's just you're in, you're out. And then she was talking about how, like I said, now it's like the ego can attach to that good feeling and try to keep it there, which starts the cycle all over again.
Yeah.
There we are, and an attachment. And so the subtle suffering begins again, because of course that's going to slip away and that experience will last. And this is what I said that I've never heard myself say before. I said to her, don't even worry about that. I'm like, let it get attached. Because what I realized that I've been doing is like, when we have a breakthrough moment of self-realization, we start feeling good. Then our personal development kicks in and goes, don't get attached, but it does it from worry and fear. right? Because it knows that if it starts to get attached, that this thing is going to unwind itself. And so what do? We begin to manage and cope the part that's starting to build anxiety about that. And what that part is really trying to do is brace itself that if something bad happens, you're going to be prepared and you won't take the brunt of the hit as hard as you would have. It's already started defending itself. But in the defending itself, ultimately creates the thing to defend itself from. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. We don't even need to be concerned with not being attached. We can get attached, which we're going to do anyway, because your ego is always going to get attached, as long as we're aware and notice the part that's getting attached. You guys get that? It's like, so even in the moment where things shift for you and get better, a part of you is going to get attached. You've all learned not to do that because attachment leads to disruption and disappointment and anger and all sorts of other stuff. But there's no way to not do that. So we might as well always live in the same principle. It's like, hey, as I'm feeling good, yes, there's also going to be a part of me that begins to wallow and get desperate and start defending something that may or may not come. And guess what? You get to watch that layer and give that love too and meet that part with compassion, not try to judge it or manage it or cope it away. It's expressing a real concern that it has. And in the noticing, there's even more healing for you. And so like I was offering that we can start moving away from this idea that we're having like an emotion, because an emotion has it sound like we're like one thing is happening right now. Like I feel happy. Okay. You're just happy. That's all there is. Oh, you're just sad. That's all there is. No, there's like 15 other experiences that are happening, right? Because in the joy, there's also the anxiety. When there's anxiety, there's also good stuff in your life happening. And there's this this amalgamation of human experience that's happening simultaneously. But when we try to define it as one thing, I feel like it creates this kind of confusion in our system. And it actually makes things harder on us. So I wanted to share that with you guys, because even for me, I was like, oh shit, that was potent and powerful. And I imagine you probably are living that way too, and to some degree, but I've never articulated it that way out loud before. And it felt really new. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's like, guys, like, here's your choice. It's really simple. You can be with what's here now, or you can't. It's as simple as that. Your free choice is I can either be with what's arising or not. If you're not being with what's arising, your mind will create other things to be with.
That's it.
Simple. Like, it will create the illusion of reality that it deems is the simplest version for it to be inside of. But then you're not with reality, and that reality you already know, because it's created the hardships and the problems and the quote issues that you think you have, or whatever it is that's going on. It's doing that anyway. That illusion is doing that anyway. So while it seems easier to counteract our experience with thoughts and, the ideas and pivoting and paradigm shifts and managing and coping, when you live that, like as lived experience, I don't find that to be the easier experience at all. That one is extremely energy intensive. And while it may take you some time to learn how to sit with, from a compassionate place, to be with everything, it's like, from where I sit today, it's the ultimate gift that you can give yourself. And if it takes you 5 or even 10 years to develop that gift, the rest of your life, all the relationships that you're part of and everything else that you do will have an air of fluidity that's truly unimaginable to most people on this planet at this time.
Yeah.
And so, like, who cares how long it takes to develop that gift? You take your time and you develop it at your own pace. And, we'll see you where the light is shining when you're ready to come out there.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think there's this notion that things should be easier, or we were talking about this also at the live event. Like, there's this like magical book or formula or process that someone hasn't shared with you yet. And because of it, I think that's why people kind of stay in that state that you're pointing to. But look, I mean, it took us 15 years and over $1 million to get there. So it's not like we're superstar, gold star students by any stretch of the imagination. Like, we forced for a long time, thinking that, we were just almost there. We were just almost there. We were just almost there. And yeah, that's why I share with people when I talk to clients and prospects every once in a while, I'm like, we're not special and we're not gifted and we're not talented. We live our lives the way we live our lives because we have dedicated our time over the last 7-8 years to continuously practice these simple practices. We've stopped trying to process ourselves. We've stopped trying to figure shit out, or how it got started, or when it got started, or why it got started. We gave up all of that need to understand. And what we realized was connection, both in one-on-one and group, was what was really, really missing. Sitting with attuned practitioners who can hold you in the moments and hold you through the moments that you have been avoiding your entire life is the only way out. And if you've been doing this for a long time, and by long time, that can be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, it doesn't matter. I just want you to know that there's absolutely another path that is easy, that is simple, and it just takes you showing up. That's it. And if you're willing to show up for 5-10 minutes a day, there's literally no rupture, no trauma, no wound, no issue that can't be resolved given enough time in these practices. None. Zero. I don't care what age you start at. I don't care what your religious belief is. I don't care where you're starting. I don't care how traumatized you are. None of it matters. Literally none of it matters. Are you feeling inspired by these podcasts? Is this approach striking a chord with you? Imagine taking this journey even further with personal coaching from Guy and I, right from your own home on Zoom. Join us at our next live event. They happen quarterly. It's an accessible, cost-effective way to dive deep into these transformative practices, not just theoretically, but experientially. Attendees often share that they've experienced unprecedented levels of peace, support, forgiveness, and awareness. Remember, healing isn't just a mental exercise. It must be felt and released through the body. So here's a special gift just for you, our valued listener. Visit intuitivemind.live and use the coupon code OLDSOUL to receive 25% off your ticket. The Intuitive Mind event is unlike any other. So impactful that many participants return multiple times, some as many as 10, 12, even 15 times. Plus, once you register, we'll immediately send you a recording of a previous event so that you can start practicing right away. Don't miss this opportunity. Go to intuitivemind.live, secure your spot for our next live event using the coupon code OLDSOUL, and start your transformative journey today. Now, back to the show.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it's like you either show up or you don't to just sit with yourself every single day. And if all you can muster is 5 minutes, that's all you can muster. But certainly, for those of you guys who are practicing minis, even if you're just getting those going and you quite haven't felt the repair, it's like it's a building process. It's a trusting process. It's an unfolding process. And so at the start, you may not, it may just feel like, oh, I feel a little bit better after I sit in a mini, or I feel a little bit more grounded, or my mind is not so chaotic. Okay, good. That's a good pointer. Hey, look, something's happening, right? And the reality is that the quality of life that most of us want, because it's an inner experience, our inner experience is subtle. It doesn't bonk you over the head. It's not a horn going off or a car driving by or something that you can see. It's something you deeply and intimately experience within yourself. And so there are things that even internally kind of yank at your attention. They're here, it becomes really here, pay attention. But most of the time it's a really subtle experience. It's really the little things that provide me with the greatest joy. It's that gap of not being reactive, in a moment that you know yourself to be reactive. I don't know why that gives me the biggest pleasure. It's like, look at me, I didn't get caught. Didn't get caught in the web of my programming, didn't get caught in the web of my conditioning, and just like allowing for an experience to be there. And again, whether it's quote positive, negative, or neutral, just to have that capacity to be with something all the way. My wife was going through something this morning. She's got a lot on her plate right now, and 2 kids is just a lot, and she's just feeling the pressure of the task list of the things that she gets to do. And in like the past, we would just sit there and talk about it and try to figure it out. And again, we did some like try to figure out logistics, like where I could support her, but like I just could not today. Like I have a very full day today. And like before I went to work, we had this really beautiful moment upstairs, and it was just like holding her and like feeling connected with her, and I could just feel her system calming down. And I was like, geez, like that's so much better than sitting here and trying to figure shit out together, where she's still feeling like I can feel like the part that's worried or irritated or whatever it is trying to get stuff done. And we just need connection. And I again, this just reaffirmed everywhere. I started listening to a book. I don't remember how it was recommended to me. It's called The Happiness Advantage by Sean Anker. It's not even that long. It's a kid that went to Harvard and then spent another 8 years in the dormitory as a kind of like, a guide or whatever, and giving lectures there and stuff like that. And he found, he thought like, oh, these kids in the ivory towers and all the, like just by going here, how many doors open for you when you say I'm from Harvard or whatever it is. And he's like, everyone here is fucking miserable. They're so unhappy.
Wow.
Because where they came from, he's like, and he gives a little background. He's like, where they came from in their academic life is that they were the best at everything. And then they come to the school and they're barely in the top 50%. They're not even in the top 50% of smart people. It's like a harsh and stark reality. And so now there's also the pressure of achieving there and doing that and this and that. And he's like, so the thing that those people don't end up learning is they have almost no social skills. They have no community and no social acuity whatsoever. And so they become self-reliant in a moment that his research shows that the number one predictor for success, for productivity, for happiness, for everything else is community, is connection.
Wow.
He goes, if a person is feeling connected, he goes, even doctors, before they make a diagnosis, if they were feeling connected,
wow,
before they make the diagnosis, first of all, they'll get it right way more, and they'll get to the diagnosis 20% faster just because they had connection. So like our genius is like kicks in because of connection.
Wow.
Because what does it do? It soothes the system. Of course, when you are in a part and there's no connection and you're in a subtle panic in the system, it hijacks your brain. So whatever intelligence you have is not even accessible to you because you don't have clarity. You can't reach for those things. It makes sense. Number one predictor.
That's wild.
About everything. So he gives these like 7 things. I haven't gone through all of it, but just to kind of share that with you guys. And he's like, so all these kids in the moment where they have the most stress in their lives and they would need connection, just isolate themselves and have none at all. And it becomes this really vicious feedback loop that they're in. But how many of us are doing that to ourselves on a regular basis, trying to figure it all out on our own? And you guys hear us preach this stuff all the time here. It's like, don't do this on your own. You're going to waste your time. You could try. Prove to yourself how intelligent and smart and capable you are. And that's great. You are all those things. You'll be a lot more of those things if you just work with people. Yeah. If you just get some connection, then you will be smarter and more capable and more independent and all those things. And look, a lot of us have the story of codependency from our childhood. We grew up in homes where you were forced into independence, and we look down at codependent children. I'm telling you, I'm not doing that at all in my house. I want my children to be as codependent as they can fucking possibly want in this lifetime. As much as they need to depend on me, I'm there for it. Because that codependency is a lack of experience on their part on how to regulate their nervous systems. So of course they're dependent on me for that regulation. If I don't teach them that, they will forever be the codependent human being. At an early age, there's nothing else that you could be other than dependent on a caregiver. Your life is at risk if you don't depend on that individual. You know, the reason a baby intuitively bonds with the mother is because the baby intuitively knows that if love is not present, their life is at risk. Right? Like that's it. That bonding process and the health of that bonding process is pretty much why we all have the programs that we have at this point in time in our lives. A main precursor. I do think we come with a lot built in, like we choose the experience, right? So even if you didn't have that was just kind of the type of humanity at the unconscious, global, divine, intelligent level is choosing to learn. It's like, hey, I need that rupture in order to learn that, how to give that to myself, to create a cohesive society. But like, it's crazy because then we all grow up having not learned how to really be independent, trying to prove how independent we are because of the rupture that happened at home. So it's like, guys, there's nothing wrong with being dependent on people. You know, and like, I get it. Like reaching out that hand and not being met is a real heartbreaking experience, but that already happened. And maybe that's still happening. Not maybe, that's clearly still happening in the world, mostly because what supporting one another out there is not really clear to us yet. We think support is like money or, you know, giving someone food. And there's an aspect of support in that realm. Don't get me wrong. Like, God bless the people who are doing that. But like the real support is, like we said, what we care about is our inner experience. And so when we're rejecting that for, quote, supporting people or supporting, you know, doing support out here, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
It's like kind of okay to fall apart and be like a messy emotional puddle and like have somebody there with you while that's happening. You know, I was just taking one of our L1s through an experience, and she was really upset because she had this thing come up the other day and she didn't sit with it. And I said, hey, it's no problem. Like, you didn't miss an opportunity. You didn't do anything wrong. We sat with her. We just had a beautiful healing experience with her. But it's like, you know, and I told her, I'm like, for me, when something like that comes up, I don't want to be by myself. And she was going to do it on her own. And I said, so look at the intelligence, because she was in a situation where she couldn't meet it while it was happening. She was there with her granddaughter while it came up. They were watching like a Disney movie together, and like something came up in her system. And it was like this really like painful part. And she felt so bad because she like didn't sit with this aspect of herself. And I said, hey, there's no issue. I'm like, she's just waiting. She doesn't have a watch in there. She's like, hey, by 2 p.m. we got to take care of this.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as you told her, I'm like, hey, I'm here. I see you and I'm with you. Like she's already getting acknowledged, which is light years away from where you were 6 to 12 months ago. I'm like, so let's sit now. And then for this, you know, it all started coming up. But I said, look, even if you could, when that was coming up, I'm like, there's an intelligence that it didn't let you do when you're in that situation. I'm like, because I wouldn't want to go where this I think is about to go on my own. I always want somebody to presence me while that's happening. It's not the same. I can't even go that deep if somebody's not there with me.
Yeah, that's you're just hitting on the nail there. We cannot go that deep.
Yeah, we just can't. So it's like there's a reassurance in our system that we see it as social bonding with our eyes, but it's happening energetically so much deeper. And that's the reality, is because we are living in this disillusionment of being separated, but we're all one. And so it's like when Elon's talking about nodes, it's like when two nodes are together, it's like two servers being together or two CPUs being together. They're just more powerful together. Right? Like it's kind of how it works. And so like we are in this really transitory time, and it's so interesting because what's being shown to us over and over again is separation. Right? And so it's like kind of funny because through separation where you get to learn connection, the importance of connection. It's like always the opposite, right? Everything that happens in our lives, like the lesson is the exact opposite of what we're experiencing. And I want to recount again, like when we look at data points, I'm curious to see this, but Steve Ballmer, the former CEO of Microsoft, just took it upon himself to create a website called, I think, usafacts.org.
Okay.
And I'm very curious to go on there because he is basically taking all the government data to show what's actually true in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is up?
It's up right now. Yeah.
What's it called?
I saw him talk about it, and I just saw a commercial for it. I think it's called usafacts.org. And so they're taking, I think what they're doing is, again, I don't know because I haven't been on the website, is taking real data and actually showing what's true. So it's not what the news thinks is true, or what people feel is true, or what the news constantly bombards in your face, because the real data points on the planet show less violence, less death, less disease, longer lives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, while everybody's getting more depressed. Because they think of like we're like at this imminent place that the world's going to end, when everything is pointing to that everything is getting better all the time. and like, so we have this disillusionment right now. And like, even with Twitter and what happened there in the Twitter files, like, what was the book called that I read that was about this? It basically shows how like societies on a whole get hypnotized into believing that something is true. Right. It's a very cool book. I'll try to find the thing when we can take a pause here and talk. But one of the things I remember, he was talking about some authoritarian dictator in, like, I don't know if it was Venezuela or Ecuador or something like that. And how this guy who actually didn't have a lot of support seemed to be getting all this support, right? Like all these people are supporting them. And so what happens is when we see a lot of people supporting something, kind of like what happened with COVID, like everyone starts seemingly support something. When you have the opposite opinion, you're like, you just shut the fuck up. You silence yourself because you believe that you're in the minority holding that opinion, when it's the exact opposite. Usually when you get that quiet feeling inside, it actually usually means you're part of the majority. But ironically, the minority that has those very strong feelings are the ones that tend to be the most vocal online. And so when they do studies on this kind of stuff, those people that have shaped the planet, and done all these things, COVID included, that's about 7 to 9% of a population that has that, where the 91% holds the exact opposite opinion. But those 7 to 9% use their voices so loudly that the other 91% thinks that they're in the minority and then don't say something. And his point in the book was that the only way through that illusion is by people opening their mouths and saying, this is my truth. And the illusion kind of falls apart from there. And so he has all this data and historical stuff to show it. But the reason I mentioned the dictator is because I remember, and again, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember the exact details, but this dictator basically had understood this principle and created a farm of fake Twitter accounts. And so every time he posted something, that farm would like and comment positively on what he was commenting on.
Wow.
And so through that appeal, the people in the country believed that they were in the minority that wanted to remove him from power and gave him power. And so they had realized this. And so Twitter like removed the farm, and suddenly when he was posting, it had like nothing. Like it was just fucking crickets, and the illusion broke apart and he was removed from power. Wow. So now I think Twitter that's why they wanted the blue checks and the subscription models. I've heard Elon actually talk about this. He goes, because that's our way of getting rid of all that stuff that's manipulating reality and having people believe false truths that are not true. Because if everyone was on a subscription model, even if it's just a few dollars, no one's going to go out. Because before, when the cost of creating a free account is pennies of time for a person versus a subscription model, nobody can go create 1 million bots and pay $8.99 and have $9 million a month going out. Do you get that? It's kind of genius that he did that. So, we want to take a look at where is that happening in our own lives, in our own belief systems inside of ourselves. It's like, you have your version of reality. You have the way that you look at things. And you've learned that it's invalid in many ways, or that you need to fight for it in some particular way. But the reality is you've invalidated your version of reality. You're invalidating the experiences you're having inside of your body. And it's like, again, what's the answer here? More compassion.
Yeah, always.
It becomes more love, right? It becomes a lot easier to say what you feel about things when what's coming up is met with love, and you say it from that place, because then what's speaking is not the reactivity. You can say the same thing from reactivity and it will not make a lick of a difference. Like your voice will not be heard, or you'll trigger people. Or when you're coming from that loving place, it can move mountains. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like Joe Rogan, Dave Chappelle, people like that who will say extraordinarily by modern contemporary morality seems extremely edgy, which 10, 20 years ago wouldn't have even blipped on the radar, but today is extremely edgy, and they can just say it. And for the most part, it's fairly well received. And the reason for that, I like when I listen to them, I'm like, oh, these are people who are living in much more neutrality, a lot less reactivity in their system than other people. And when they tell you their life story, you can see how they learned that over time. Like Dave Chappelle was a person who went through a whole lot of shit after he got extremely famous, all to come through his spiritual lesson, to come to this kind of more neutral place. And when he came back into the public eye, it's like a different human being. Like between who he was when he was young and who he is now, like I barely recognize the guy. And the wisdom that pours out of him is just like shocking, striking, right? And I love that about him. That's why I love listening to him.
Yeah, agreed. He's become less of a comedian and more of a observer that kind of just points to things.
Yeah, in a really elegant and sometimes even hilarious ways, but it's more like, I don't want to even call it intelligence, his wisdom that clearly pours through him, and like the ease at which he can talk about any area of life. But again, I think that comes from like he occurs to me like a person who actually like really enjoys himself internally. And when I hear other people recount stories about him, about like how he talks to them when he's not in the public eye, you can just feel that on him. Like he has this like, hey, whatever, we'll just do it. It's like everything's so flowy inside. They've already taken me to hell, and they show me how bad it can be. Like I'm not worried anymore.
Yeah.
So let's just do the thing and have a good time. And he speaks from there, and it's really beautiful.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. If you guys have not been to one of these events, then I can't recommend it highly enough. We already have dates for the next two. So the next one is December 14th and 15th. You can grab your tickets already. And then after that, we won't have one till I want to say February.
I think it's 4th or 5th.
Let me see.
I got you.
Right now we're showing February 1st and 2nd.
Yeah. Yep. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. We love you very much, and we appreciate your time and attention. And we hope these conversations inspire you and motivate you, and more than anything, bring you back to your commitment to your own practice. And we know if you keep on the path, we guarantee you're going to make some massive headway. Just give yourself the patience and grace to get there.
For sure.
We love y'all. Take care. We'll see you here next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, dear one, for choosing to share a bit of your day with us. We value you greatly. And as a way to give back and help you to deepen these practices, we want to invite you to join our incredible community on Facebook. You can do so easily by going to joinoldsouls.com and ask for an invite. This is our private community where old souls and seekers are able to grow and share their journey with others. We hold exclusive weekly live streams, we answer your personal questions, and offer valuable insights that we won't be able to share here on the podcast. So again, just head to joinoldsouls.com and grab your invite today. And as always, if you enjoy this podcast, please head to iTunes and leave us a review. It's the only way other people can find this show. So if it's making a difference in your life, please share the love. Until we meet again, have an amazing week, dear one.